when you first start business, you're like, I'll say yes to anyone. I want to make money. Like this needs to happen now. And then as you go, you're like, maybe that wasn't the best choice. And those aren't quite the people I want to work with. And I'm going to niche down just a little bit and then see how it goes. And you realize, okay, here's some more things that I could cut. And, I can get a little bit deeper into who I want to work with.
Hey, my feel good friend, and welcome to the Feel Good Social Podcast. I'm your host, Kinsey, and oh man, you are going to hear me squirming in my seat for today's conversation with today's guest. We are chatting with Erin of Luname Strategy. And you may remember Erin from our systems episode 120, about 10 episodes ago. I had Erin on to talk all about organizing your systems online because she is an online business manager for website designers. Pretty cool. But her quote unquote side gig is actually running her and her husband's Airbnb. And so I knew I had to bring her back on the show to chat about all things Airbnb and the ins and outs of what it looks like to run it, the investments that she's made, the mistakes and that they've made and how they've transitioned over time. And also Erin breaks down the numbers in a really realistic way of, can you actually make money from doing an Airbnb, right? This conversation not only applies to if you want to run an Airbnb for yourself, but this is one of the reasons I was squirming in my seat for the entire chat, because everything Erin was saying, I was like having mind-blowing moments of, oh my gosh, this is just such great advice for any business, for any type of business owner and how you want to market it and all that different stuff. This is going to be a super valuable conversation for you. I cannot wait to share it. So let's dive right in. Hey friend, and welcome to the Feel Good Social Podcast. I'm your host, Kinsey, and I'm here to help you market your business in a genuine way that works without wasting your precious time. On this show, we chat about social media strategy and mindset tips with a focus on, you guessed it, feeling good. So sit back, relax, and enjoy some genuine conversation for the good of your biz. Do you know what your brand vibe is on Instagram? I have a new fun quiz that's just for you, my friend. I, of all people, know how hard it is to figure out how the heck you're supposed to translate your brand to the gram. And with this quick 7-question quiz, we will help you hone in on your brand's personality, voice, and visuals so that you can show up consistently and create content that looks beautiful and feels on brand for you. This quiz is so awesome. It's been a long time coming, and I know that you're going to have a lot of fun with it. Plus, the results will help you show up in the best way for you. If you'd like to check out our new brand vibe quiz, just head to feelgoodsocial.com/quiz. Pretty easy. Head to feelgoodsocial.com/quiz to find out what your brand's vibe is on social media and start showing up there for your brand. Hi, Erin. Oh my gosh, I am so excited to bring you back on the Feel Good Social Podcast, lady. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh my gosh, thank you for having me back. I'm so excited.
Yes. Well, I did introduce you a little bit in the intro. And guys, Erin has already been on the Feel Good Social Podcast in episode 120. If you want to go back and give that a listen, we talk all about systems and Erin's OBM business and all that stuff. But Erin, for those people who haven't listened to episode 120 yet, can you please tell us, who are you? What do you do? Who do you serve?
Sure. Yep. I'm Erin Taylor, and my business is Luname Strategy and Systems Design, and I am an OBM for web designers. So I work with them on retainer month after month to help streamline their business and be their second brain and help with all the automations and their team.
Oh my goodness. And also too, lady, like whenever we did our first interview and we were just chatting about all that different stuff, I hadn't yet started thinking about integrating some website design into my business, but I was already like, Erin's amazing. I want to work with her. So now that I'm starting to do more of that website stuff, I'm like, Oh, shoot. The universe has come around full circle. But that's another conversation for another time. Today, I'm super excited to chat with you about your Airbnb, guys. We're going to be diving into all the nitty gritty details. Erin is going to be sharing her best tips and all that different stuff. But I'd love to start this conversation by asking, like, how did you guys even get started creating an Airbnb?
Yeah. So it was kind of a few years in the making. Our friends down here in Charleston, South Carolina, had an Airbnb in a converted garage. And we had talked about how we could potentially do it. But I didn't want an Airbnb where somebody would have to walk through my front door to get to their room. Like that just didn't feel safe to me when I was working from home. Mm-hmm. So eventually we realized we have 2 bedrooms and a bathroom upstairs in our home that we basically we're letting fill up with extra stuff we didn't really need. So we blew out a window, put stairs on the side of our house, and have it closed off from the main house. So it's a private 2-room, 1-bath Airbnb. But it really started because I wanted to leave my corporate job. And we wanted just a little bit of I wanted some financial security to say goodbye to that recurring paycheck. So an Airbnb was the way we decided to do that. And since we live in a tourist area, we figured, since they're going to be here anyway, we might as well make some money off of them.
Yes. I fully feel that story too, because you and I have had this conversation. Brett and I were considering Airbnb-ing out our place when we lived there before we sold it this year or whatever. But Brett's like, well, maybe we could have people stay with us for the weekend in the other bedroom. And I was like, dude, you don't work from home. I don't really want people clomping around. Also somewhat, I am a super awkward person to strangers. I'm I don't know what to do with my hands style. So I feel that so much, lady. What was the process getting started? You must have had so much to learn.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So Charleston, at least a few years ago, was one of the strictest cities in the nation for his Airbnb. So it was learning all about the local regulations and what we had to do there, as well as actually building stairs on the side of our home and setting up all of the furniture and bed and making that all look really nice. So I think we started the process in June of 2019, and we didn't have our first guest until October 2019. So it is a process to set up, both time and cost wise. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you have to, at least here, you have to file paperwork. There's a 30-day waiting period for people to complain. Then you have to have the fire inspector come out, which that's a yearly thing, get a business license. And that's just, locally before you even get into the Airbnb app and actually take photos and set up the listing in itself. So it's a whole process.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And here where Brett's parents live, actually in Colorado, there was totally Airbnb restrictions in the town that we used to live in near Beaver Creek, the ski resort. But here as well, I know that there's only one Airbnb allowed per block or something like that. And they're kind of crazy and different across the board, right? So how did you learn about that? Did you just start Googling stuff? Were there blogs? What did
usually
that look
the city? If you go to the city website, they'll all have ordinances on STR, short-term rentals, and you can figure out what area you're in and what rules apply to you. And then honestly, I found that whether they have a way to do something online, if you can actually go down to the city offices and talk to somebody, that's usually the best and fastest way to get things done when it comes to city workers.
Oh my God, totally. And I could already feel people cringing on the other side of the microphone, be wait, I have to talk to people in person.
I know it's terrible, but our application actually got lost. We put it in and we waited and finally we went down there and just talked to somebody about it. And they were like, yeah, it's not here. Okay, we'll start it over basically for you and kind of speed up the process because you've been waiting for, 15 days already. So it really does help to get down there. And there's little nuances that might make you think you have to do one thing, but really it's something else. So just sitting down with those people, and as long as you're nice, they're usually very, very helpful on exactly what you need to do in the order you need to do it.
Yeah, it is crazy what a smile can do for people. For
it's
sure.
So true.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So in the whole process of setting it up and all that stuff, are there any like mistakes that you wish you would have done differently or anything like that you can think of?
I feel like every year we adjust something. It's, it's kind of one of those things until you make the mistake, you don't know that it's what something you shouldn't have done. I think the big thing is around who you're marketing to. So Airbnb in itself, like once you put up the listing, obviously they're doing a whole bunch of the ad side of marketing for you. It's there as long as people hit your search criteria. But once you start getting guests, you quickly realize, what type of place your guests are suited for, and who you actually want to be there. And when we started, it was how we want to make money. So we can fit 4 people in here, and we're going to price low and we're going to have one night minimums and whoever comes, and it's so overwhelming. It was entirely overwhelming. If you think about somebody coming in for one night and then having to clean for somebody to come in for one night, that you're running a hotel and that's just not feasible as an individual. And so that was definitely a learning curve for us, as well as learning that I don't actually want 4 people in my upstairs 2 bedrooms.
Yes.
Not only do 4 people make so much more of a mess, you start getting little groups of people. If you think college getaways, and that's not really the crowd that we wanted in our home either. So, those little things that you just have to experience to figure out, now we're 2 adults and 1 child under 2 max. And, we, during the summer, it's a 3-night minimum. In the off season, shoulder seasons, it's a 2-night minimum, all of those little things. And then pricing plays a point in it. Even this off season, we're planning on making some changes to just how we decorated originally. I came in people are in Charleston. They want this very cute, quaint little Airbnb. And that's how it is decorated right now. And while for the most part, we get the people that we want, we've also learned that attracts a slightly older demographic at times. And, really who we'd love to attract is younger couples getting away. And so I think we're going to make some design changes next year to encourage that type of individual and maybe discourage another.
Oh my gosh. I knew. So guys, before we hopped on and started recording, Erin and I were chatting back and forth about the different things we could chat about and stuff. And I'm literally squirming in my seat right now because okay, firstly, even as a marketer, I don't think I had fully thought through that process yet of branding and marketing your Airbnb and just how similar it is across the board to every other frickin' business. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so maybe people on the other side of the microphone too are just oh yeah, that is something that you need to think about, but also too, it makes so much sense. Exactly. You don't want to be attracting a group of 6 college kids who are okay, well, 2 of us can sleep on the floor. One of us can grab the couch, right?
Right.
No, they'll trash the place. They'll make lots of noise, especially with you guys just living right downstairs, and all that different stuff. And I love the idea too, that it's all these different elements, right? It's probably also how you write your listing, right? What you bring attention to in your area, all the amenities and stuff like that, and the way you decorate. So just give me a little hint of what changes you're thinking of making to try to attract that younger.
We're going to go really bold with some paint colors and artwork and go that direction. Yeah. Definitely making sure that it's a very, very clear from our listing that this is a spot for everyone and that love is love and we're acceptance of everyone, and kind of people that don't agree with that probably won't want to stay with us. And that's what we're going for.
Yep. Okay. Oh, I feel that as well. Yes. Okay. Awesome. And also too, Instagrammable,
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
That matters with an Airbnb thing. So
it does.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
And we don't really have, I know you see all the cute little Airbnbs that are separated from somebody's home and they've got the, outside element, and we don't really have that because it's just our house. So yeah, doing things on the inside to make it feel very Instagrammable and less just a hotel. And I think that that's what we were going for originally was, what are all the things we like about traveling? What amenities do we want from a hotel? And that design, I think, crept in there, along with feeling like it needed to be Charleston. And now I'd like to stand out from like the South.
Yeah. And stand out. Guys, everything that she is saying can be applied to your brand too, by the way. Because it's so true. It's like, this is why we need to think through, who do we want to attract? What does our brand stand for? And how can we visually portray that? How can we portray that in our messaging? All that different stuff. How can we make our brand attractive to who we want to work with, who we want to invite into our Airbnb, like whatever that looks like. And exactly.
It's so funny looking back, because it's literally paired my business, right? When you first start business, you're like, I'll say yes to anyone. I want to make money. Like, this needs to happen now. And then as you go, you're like, maybe that wasn't the best choice. And those aren't quite the people I want to work with. And I'm going to niche down just a little bit and then see how it goes. And you realize, okay, here's some more things that I could cut. And, I can get a little bit deeper into who I want to work with. And it was nice because I had like just a little bit of experience running a business with Airbnb before I started mine. But now, like looking back, I kind of wish I had taken my own advice from the Airbnb and applied it to my business sooner. It's, you just kind of forget like they're two separate things. And I'm not, looking at them that way until now,
Well, and so, okay, this is also the case with like branding and stuff too, right? It's like you start out thinking that you need to fit into the mold, fit into like what's expected of like your area, what's expected of your industry, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, then you just end up looking and sounding and like having a house or an Airbnb, it's just like everyone else. There's a lot of Airbnbs out there. There's a lot of brands out there. Exactly. Like, to stand out, you need like develop your own character and personality and all that stuff. Ugh, lady, I'm just geeking out over here. You can tell. But is there anything else that you've done to like help your listing stand out when it comes to all the different Airbnb stuff?
So there's definitely the basics, like being a super host, which is all about reviews, just like any business. And while we're on the topic, Airbnb's review system is different than anything else I've ever seen before. So it's a 5-star system. And if you think, even before being a host, I would associate it with like Yelp, a 4-star restaurant is a restaurant I would still absolutely go to. But in the Airbnb world, they can kick you off the app if you go a 4.3. So a 5-star in Airbnb terms is really that you didn't lie in your listing and it was exactly how it's described. That's what a 5-star means. But from a guest perspective, they don't tell you that. And so part of it is like educating guests in a nice way that doesn't like come off as, I need you to give me a 5-star.
Yeah.
But getting those 5 stars makes you a super host, which obviously there's toggles and that filters people can search by, which will help stand out. And then having little extras and promoting where you are, we're just a few miles from the beach. We're a few miles from downtown Charleston. We've got, a private entrance, which people really care about, even though it's in our home. We provide, beach supplies, an outdoor shower, like those little amenities that do stand out. And we do clean it ourselves. And we've been very meticulous about how we clean. So if you look through any of our reviews now, almost every single one talks about how clean it is, which is really ensured that we stand out when you're looking at a few of them and you see all of those pieces. We also leave freshly baked chocolate chip cookies for every guest. So that helps as well.
I want to come stay with you guys. I'm over here like, oh, wow, that sounds good. The chocolate chip cookies sold me, lady.
Yep.
Oh my goodness. I love this so much. Okay. Firstly, just got to take it back to the review system real quick. That is insane.
Yes,
and like,
it is.
Because and it sucks too, because you can't exactly blame your guests because people are used to a different sort of rating system, especially with restaurants and all that stuff. And so what is like your tactic for kind of nicely informing the guest, please leave us a 5-star, because it's really important.
So I start off like when I start messaging the guests, I up front say, I want you to have a 5-star stay. Please let us know what we can do. So I put that out there very early. And then our book inside the Airbnb that has all the like local recommendations has a page that I've created. That's a little like cheeky way of saying what each star level means, and it's like 2 stars, basically like take the host to jail. You know what I mean? Like very jokey way of explaining the system without, asking them for anything. And so I feel like anyone that's first time Airbnb guest usually flips through the whole book and will kind of get that understanding. And then at the end, when they check out, I tell them that we want a 5-star review. And if there's anything that happened during their trip that would prevent them from leaving a 5-star review, to reach out and tell me before leaving a review so we could rectify it if it was something that we could fix.
Yes. Oh man. Ooh, okay. Getting goosebumps once again. I just geek out about these conversations all the time because firstly, like, yeah, I love all those tactics. And guys too, this is something that could be applied to like any business. Once again, this entire conversation is helpful for Airbnb, but also our own businesses. We have trouble asking people, we have trouble putting ourselves out there in a way where it's like, yeah, like I would love to give you like a 5-star experience. Like, how can I make that happen? That's a technique that I use in my coaching calls often. I start our call by being like, or I put it in my questionnaire. I'm like, what would make this call a success for you? And they will tell you,
Yep.
Or if you're doing a discovery call with people, what would make working with me a success for you? You know what I mean? Like even just asking that and putting that out there, because people will tell you and it's not always what you think it is. Right. And then I love your like preventative measures just through thinking about the customer's journey, flipping through the guest book, checking in, making sure that they're having a good time, checking in at the end again before, and you still have time to rectify situations. This is something that I learned. Oh man, I had a horrible like 6 months of having to answer restaurant reviews for one of the restaurants, my first client ever. People are just mean, guys, and like not understanding, but ultimately like what I have learned, and also I have had to answer reviews for other businesses and stuff like that. Like most people, all they want is just like affirmation to be heard, right? For their complaint to be heard, and a simple, I apologize so much. We will do everything possible to improve this for next time or make sure this doesn't happen again. And they're cool with that. Have you read into that at all?
Oh gosh, I've got a story for you. We had this couple come. It was actually earlier this year. They drove down, I think, from Chicago. And so I thought they were flying, but they were driving and they didn't get in till like 1 a.m. So we were fast, hard asleep by the time they arrived. They had issues with entering the door code and we didn't wake up when they knocked on the front door. So just because I'm an anxious person, I woke up at like 3 a.m. and looked at my phone and realized that I had missed calls that I hadn't woken up to, like messages through the app. I realized that they weren't at our house anymore. So I called him and he was like, we're already at a hotel. And in my head, I'm like, oh my gosh, these are people that are staying for a week. So you just think about the amount of money in my head, it's gone. Like at that point, that's a huge screw up that they tried to check in and then couldn't get a hold of us right away. But honestly, at that point, you're like, well, there's nothing left to lose. So the next morning I met them. I apologized profusely. We figured out the door situation, which was user error, but we figured that out. We figured that out. I told them like, I want to make this right. Tell me what I can do to make it right. And really all they were concerned about was not paying for the night that they didn't sleep in the bed. Luckily, Airbnb on their side, they ended up paying for the hotel. So on our side, he was like, well, they paid for it. So you're good. Like, we're happy. Thank you. And we just comped them the night more than the night anyway, and which made their day. This poor couple, the power went out while they were here too, but they still ended up leaving, like stopping by and talking to us before we left and told us what a great first Airbnb experience they had, despite the mishap in the beginning, and how happy they were with us and what amazing like place we had. So, and like they left a 5-star review after that start. So it really does like matter to like have that customer service and just be upfront and honest and ask, what can I do to fix it?
Yes. Oh, thank you so much for sharing that story. Because firstly, it's like, I've not been there, but I've been there where it's like, shoot, like would I leave myself like a 5-star? You know what I mean? And like, usually it's just circumstances that you can't like control at all. And you're like, oh my gosh, like, okay, the internet going out or something like that, for me, for example, or something. And it's just like, shoot, and even staying like downstairs and not waking up, because I feel like a lot of people often have concerns and they let things hold them back from doing things, right? So like, oh, well, like we don't live nearby the Airbnb. So like, blah, blah, blah. But even Erin with like living downstairs, this shit happens.
Yeah.
And honestly too, exactly. It's like, all you have to do is like, ask like, how can I make this right?
Yeah.
And most people in the world are understanding. Most people in the world are not mean. They're, and two, what I've found when it comes to this sort of stuff is there's a certain type of person who just isn't gonna like, if people leave you 4 to 1-star reviews, they were always going to leave you that, like so many times in the restaurant industry, people leave reviews. This was so amazing. Oh my gosh, like raving about it. And then 3 stars, it's like, what? Okay. Like 5 stars. Maybe?
Yep.
Like, who knows why? I don't know, lady.
Yeah, it is. And that's true. And it's those type of people that, you kind of got to think of like, are there similarities and what can I do to dissuade them from staying with us in the future?
Yes.
A 4-star review because we don't have 2 sinks. I mean, there's literally nothing I can do about that, but like, it's not.
And like, did you want
on the
to?
list?
Yeah. Like, it's not like you lied about it. Like if 2 sinks was very important, then oh my goodness. So freaking true. So freaking true. I'm over here rolling my eyes, guys. But yeah, for sure. Thank you for sharing that with us. And I love that it always comes back to like marketing and branding and positioning.
And I think it's being upfront with people too, especially in Airbnb, like tell them everything, take photos of literally everything. Cause often I feel like people book by just looking at the photos. So I have an obscene amount of photos, like here's the closet, here's this, and things that people tell you, like go back and update your listing, that feedback that you get from people, like making it very clear we don't have a full kitchen, making it very clear you have to walk up a full flight of stairs to get to our place, little things like that. But also when I ask for that 5-star review at the end, I also ask for suggestions. And we've made a lot of improvements to our Airbnb based off those guest suggestions, like an ironing board and a couple of lamps and, a knife because like they wanted to cut a piece of fruit and didn't have a knife strong enough in the plastic that we had up there. Mm-hmm. So, just little things like that, I think make a big difference. And then highlighting those in your listing that, you have those things. It's important to not lie, but it's also one of those things where I'm like, I also downplay it a little bit too. I'd rather them be impressed than disappointed when they show up.
Yeah, definitely. Oh man. Yeah. I love that too. Like, I think that in business, a lot of times, not only do they maybe upplay some of their stuff, which, but there's nothing wrong with like who you are and where you're at in your business. Right. And also too, some of those things that you're ashamed of, if you just bring them to light, and like, then the shame goes away, right? Like, for example, for you, like the staircase thing, that's not anything you can change. Like, just put it out there. People know about it. And there's people who will love that, or like who maybe not love that they have to walk up a flight of stairs, but like don't mind at all. Yeah. It's like a non-issue, but then you're turning away the people who that would have bothered, but you didn't need their business anyway, and they would have been happy anyway, right? Same thing for business. I've been listening to a lot of podcasts by like branding experts and stuff, because I'm like loving the design stuff lately. And a lot of the women, I've heard this again and again, are like, I was really ashamed of like my age. Like, I'm really young, you know what I mean? And I feel like, I got started in entrepreneurship like a little bit later, still in my 20s, but the later years of the 20s and stuff. And so I didn't get that as much, but they're like, when I just started saying my age to people, they're like, okay, cool. It just becomes a part of who you are. And then they choose to work with you, and it isn't an issue later.
Exactly.
Real quick, have I invited you to join the Feel Good Social Club yet? Oh man, my friend, I would love for you to check out our new monthly membership for down-to-earth entrepreneurs who are ready to create content with ease, actually show up and strategically market your business online every month, and also make friends with rad down-to-earth entrepreneurs who are just like you, who get it, who are in the posting trenches with you, and who are ever ready to give you a friendly air high five or kick in the accountability booty whenever you need it. The Feel Good Social Club is where it is at. Check it out, feelgoodsocial.com/club. In the club, we have a content library full of Canva templates and tutorials and resources to help you make content creation as easy as possible. We also have monthly content planning workshops where we all come together and talk about the upcoming month's strategy for our content. And we also have community forums where you can get together, ask questions of other club members, brainstorm ideas, ask for feedback. So definitely check it out. feelgoodsocial.com/club. Our Feel Good members are seriously some of the most amazing people that I have ever met. And I would love for you to join us. feelgoodsocial.com/club. Check it out. Join today. We would love to see you in there, my friend. All right, let's dive back into today's episode. Oh man, I love this so much, lady. And I love the parallels between Airbnb and all of business, What tools do you use to manage your Airbnb outside of like the app itself?
Yeah. So the app is obviously primary, and they do have ways to set up automated messages, which is great. So I don't have to worry about that. So I have a message that automatically goes out 4 days before and one that goes out on the day of check-in. But I also use Zapier to anytime somebody books, it sets up the event on my personal calendar. So I can see, what days that we're going to have to make sure that I block some time so I can go up and clean in between. And then as far as like physical tools, installing the door code app. And so the door code has an app so I can manage it from my phone. And we also did the same thing with our thermostat. So if a guest wants it hotter or colder, I can do it on my phone no matter where we are. It's like those little things.
Oh my gosh, I love that as like a systems person. Of course, you're like using Zapier, you got all the systems set up and all the different stuff. Like systems are very, very important, whether you're running an Airbnb and or whatever kind of business you're running, guys. You definitely should go back and listen to Erin's other episode 120 for sure, because we chat more about it there. But is the Airbnb app hard to navigate at all? Is there anything that we should like know about like the app, or have you run into anything about like that when it's like come to your listing and all that stuff?
So it's not hard to navigate, but there are little things that like on the back end, there's certain boxes that I only have a yes or no. Whereas from the guest perspective, it almost looks like that's something that I like added myself, and customized, where that's not necessarily the case. They are doing a lot to update that. For example, on the Airbnb app, it says beach equipment, and they have by default in there a list that says beach chairs, snorkeling, like tent, something else. Like they have a default thing that pops up, and all I have on my end is a yes or no. And so, yes, I have beach equipment, but not snorkeling gear. So that's, just little things like that it looks different from the customer side than from a host side.
Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up, because that's so true. It's like, it is always really important to go through the customer experience like yourself, right? And especially when you're dealing with online software where there's like a front end and a back end, for sure. I feel like I've run into that before where I'm like, oh, well, I've never had to go through it on like your side. Like, let me check this real quick and stuff. But I always think whenever I add like a new product to my website or anything like that, like I'll go through and buy one for myself kind of thing, so that I can make sure that the process is all set up. And it's just doing those double checks, I think, for sure.
Yeah. Nope. And a lot comes down to repetition, because, there's some people, just like any business, there's some people that are going to read your entire sales page and every little bit and watch every video. Just like Airbnb, we're going to have some guests that literally look at everything I've written, captions of the images, the entire description, the check-in process. And there's other guests that are going to like flip through the images and then book. So I try to just repeat myself. So you've got information about our place in the captions, the images, very detailed in the description. I've got a whole check-in process. It's there if people use it, but I also make sure that you're probably going to hit it at some point during the check-in process, no matter who you are.
Yes. Thank you for bringing that up. It is so freaking important, because from our perspective in the middle of our business, like as we're creating things, whether it be even like social media posts or like, the setting up the systems for your business and stuff, it's like, you think like in your head as you're creating it, you think that everyone is going to see every little thing, right? But like, no, guys, we don't. It's okay to repeat yourself. Actually, it's encouraged to repeat yourself. do you do any other marketing stuff besides like just letting the app Airbnb take the lead or?
I did set up like a free Wix website, but I never got very far on that because I was like, that's a lot to manage too.
Yeah.
But we do have an Instagram account. So I've got that, and which is a fun follow because all I post is like beach pictures and testimonials from guests. So
oh my gosh, I love that so much. Yeah. Do you ever ask like guests for photos or like to tag you in their stuff?
we do. So we have it at the bottom of all our messages that it's like our Instagram handle. And I do mention that we haven't really had a lot of guests do that, which I'm hoping the design changes might encourage the right type of guest. But also I feel like people maybe just have that, like I'm on vacation and not remembering to tag our account on their vacation pictures. So that's something from a marketing side that I've got to think through a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, but I love this. I love this so much. And I do think that you're right. Like, I think that it's who you're marketing to. It's creating an Instagrammable space, right? It's like, I've run into this with clients sometimes where it's like, I love you, but like, you don't have an Instagrammable business. You know what I mean? Like we can ask people to tag us, but like, I don't think they want to tag you like necessarily, like they don't think about it. You know what I mean? And so the more quote unquote Instagrammable you can make your business, the more people will probably Instagram it. Right. And so that makes sense to me for sure. But exactly, like asking people to tag you, like this is something that we need to get into our heads, is that it's okay to ask for a 5-star review. It's okay to ask people to share the work that you've done with them or like all that different stuff, right? Like I think a lot of people, especially when you're new to entrepreneurship, they like shy away from that for some reason, or like they don't think people want to be featured or anything like that.
People love to talk about themselves, like encourage that, what are your suggestions? What are your thoughts? How do you feel? Like, tell me about it. And they will open book. I know so much about some of our guests.
Oh my gosh, Brett would totally feel you on that. He was in property management. And it's like, oh yeah, people, you ask them one common question and they will tell you their entire life story for sure.
Right? Yeah.
Oh man. Okay. I would love to chat with you about the numbers because this is something I'm so intrigued by. And and I'm so excited to hear what you have to say, guys. I have no idea what Erin's going to tell us as far as like her numbers, like expenses and income and all that stuff from Airbnb. But I do feel like it's one of those situations often where people like feel like it's dreamy. Right? It's like, okay, cool. Like, yeah, we could just slap our room, like the spare room in our house up on Airbnb and we'll be making like an extra 50 grand a year. This is, so like expectations.
Yeah.
So, okay, break it down for us, lady. What does this look like?
Yeah. So there's so much more than like we even thought about. It's definitely not a passive income stream by any means. Even if you have somebody else clean it for you. So our first year was really short, right? We didn't have our first guest till October. So October through December, we made $3,000, but we actually lost money because it took about 10 grand to set it up. And some of those costs are because, building the stairs, we're adjusting our home, but there are a lot of upfront costs if you think about, and it's also design and who you want to attract, right? We weren't going to put hand-me-down things in our Airbnb because that's not the guest we wanted to attract. So it was all new stuff, which costs money, right? So new couch. I think the one thing we didn't do was a new bed. We got a new foam topper. So it took about $10K to get it up and running. 2020 was off to a wonderful start until March.
Oh man, yes.
But we still made about $12K that year, but expenses were about $5,000. So, and that first full year, you're going to realize all the things you didn't think of up front, right? Like, I actually need 3 or 4 sets of everything to, make sure I have the ability to turn very quickly. 2021, we brought in over 20K with expenses of just like 1,500. So it gets to that point.
Yeah.
It's that point where it's like, it evens out. And so there are going to be expenses. I mean, during this time, not only did we like build the steps that like year number 2, we ripped out all the carpet and put in like, nice laminate. It's like reinvesting that money back into the business. But it's certainly not like all going into our bank account by any means. And I think it's a lot of like, you've got the expenses of cleaning supplies, linens, but you also have just general cost. Like our insurance went up dramatically because we have to have $1 million liability policy now, which is even more because we have a dog on site, those little things that it's like, well, there goes, however many grand this year. So yeah, it's like expenses and then cost too, I think is a big factor. And then this year we're probably projecting about 24. So even more. And I think it's also maximizing. For us, it was maximizing how much money we could make in the least amount of time. So it's not passive, but like how close can we get it there? So we close our Airbnb now at the end of October, and it's completely empty November through like mid-February. And so that's our projection this year, starting in the middle of February, and we're going to close in October. And so paying for the mortgage was our big thing. And that's definitely hit that every year.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you.
Oh man. Especially like the journey, because oh man, I have had so many conversations with people who it's like, yeah, we opened our like travel company or Airbnb or whatever it was, like, in 2020, like January, and it was great. And then March it's like, oh man, like everything crashes and burns and stuff like that. So I'm so glad to hear that. And thank you so much for sharing that and being honest and realistic with it and stuff too, right? It's just like anything, like there's no fast track to anything, guys. It freaking takes time. And like, and overnight success is always going to be hollow too. I truly believe that, like you need to figure out how to make a sustainable situation for you for the long game, right? Because like anything, you can crash and burn, like with Airbnb and all that stuff too, right? It's like, I love that you are giving yourself permission and always asking what's worth it. This is like a huge mindset shift, I think, that a lot of business owners have to make, right? Like we all start out wanting to work with anyone and everyone, make all the money. And it's like,
hustle away, work 24/7.
And also with the cleaning, I don't know if this was your situation, but I could totally see a lot of people being like, I don't need to hire a cleaner. Like that's something I can do myself, not even taking into account like the amount of time and like energy it takes you to then go clean it, plus the cleaning supplies itself and stuff. And it's like, what is worth it? Like, let's start like laying all of our priorities on the table, laying all of our investment, not just money, but time and energy as well. And like asking, what is worth it for me, right?
Absolutely.
Is it worth it to work with this client who's going to pay me 10 grand, but it's like a horror client? Maybe sometimes it might be, but like for me, I'm saying no to people like that at this point.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It is something to think about. I mean, I have my like business calendar blocked from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. every single day, just in case we have a flip. So I have the ability to stop what I'm doing in my business and come run the other business by cleaning it. And it does, you get, just like anything, you get faster every time you do it, but it still takes like 2 to 3 hours for me to clean 2 bedrooms and a bathroom by myself and get everything prepped the way it like needs to be,
Yes. Oh my gosh, lady. Thank you so much for sharing all of this stuff. Is there anything else that you want to share about like your Airbnb experience and all that stuff?
Overall, it's been an awesome experience. I would say before starting one, definitely check your local laws and your like neighborhood laws. HOAs do not like short-term rentals. And keep in mind your competition, just like any business. What is the competition around you? How much can you charge per night? And is it worth it to you? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Exactly. Like, man, and the seasons too. Like I love, that's something that you don't always think about as well, is like, there's going to be busy seasons like anything, and there's going to be slower seasons and stuff like that. So just try to consider all the things. And I'm sure if anyone has any questions, Erin would love to talk about it. Okay, awesome. Lady, can you please share where everyone can connect with you and find out more about you? Because I know they'll definitely want to do that. Plus, come stay with you in Charleston.
Yeah. So the Airbnb Instagram is livingthedream_JI. So that's where you can see the whole house tour on Reels, and you can see all the pretty beach pictures and videos. My Instagram account is Luna May Strategy. And so feel free to reach out there anytime. questions about my business or the Airbnb. Happy to chat.
Oh my gosh, yes. And I will link both of those in the show notes. Thank you so much for coming on again, lady. It was so fun to chat with you.
This is so much fun. Thank you so much for having me.
Isn't Erin great? You guys, I love this woman so much. And I could have just continued chatting with her forever, if we're honest. So definitely go back and give episode 120 a listen if you haven't yet. Erin talks about all things like online systems management and all that different stuff. Such a great conversation. And if you enjoy either of these episodes, please share them to your Instagram stories and make sure that you tag both me and Erin. I'm at Feel Good Social. She is at Luname Strategy, and I've linked that below if you want to look and see how to spell it. We would both love to see your story, reshare it, and spread some love right back to you, my friend. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week, and I will catch you the next time I catch you. Thanks so much for listening, my friend. For show notes and a whole lot of other awesome freebies, visit feelgoodsocial.com. Simply go to feelgoodsocial.com for all the goods.